This is episode 23 of the Relentless Man podcast. Laws versus Rules, part 2. Hi, and welcome to the Relentless Man podcast. I'm your host, Christian Mojaiso, and my goal is to help men die empty, to make sure that you die having used up every ounce of potential that is trapped within you. However, to help you die empty, I'll have to be very raw and brutally honest with you. So if you're easily offended, stop listening. If you're easily triggered, stop listening. If you can't handle explicit language, stop listening. If you are fragile, stop listening. Otherwise, let's dig in. Before we begin this episode, I'd like to urge you to not blindly copy or implement anything that I say in this podcast episode. Rather, what I recommend is that you turn on your brain, that you think for yourself, that you make sure that every decision you make as a consequence of listening to this podcast is the result of your own thinking and decision-making process. Remember, do not be a follower. Be a student. So we're going to continue talking about laws versus rules. And this is the second part of our series in this whole idea of laws versus rules. Now, I define laws to be real principles and rules to be fake principles. An example of a law is, for instance, if you have a car and your car is functioning correctly, well, if you turn the key, if you put in the key and turn the key, well, the car is going to start. Okay, so that's a law of how the car works. A rule is something that seems to be a principle, but is really not a principle. So what are examples of rules? A rule might be someone told you that you just can't think, you're a poor thinker. Is that a rule or is that a law? Well, if it were a rule, it would mean that that's really a true statement, but we know that it's not. Because if you apply yourself, if you apply the laws of thinking, you learn how to think. So you see, if someone tells you that you can't think, you're unable to think, well, that's really not a law. That's a rule. That's a limitation that they are placing on you or that you're placing on yourself. If you transcend that limitation and believe that you can grow and apply the laws of learning, well, you learn and you're able to think. So someone telling you that you can't think, or you're not able to think, or you're a slow thinker, etc., all those are just rules. They're not laws. So in this episode, I'm going to answer more questions pertaining to laws versus rules. Okay, and the format is pretty much the same as we've been doing for a while now. I'll get a bunch of questions that were randomly selected from my pool of questions here, and I'll have a maximum of 4 minutes to answer this question. So if the alarm rings, I'll have to stop and move on to the next question. All right, let's begin this. The question asks, can I change the laws if I don't like them? Yeah, so this is a good question because we've been talking about breaking the rules, and we said actually you could view being a relentless man as breaking rules. You realize the rules that are holding you back, the limitations that are holding you back, and you overcome all those rules and limitations. And that's how you're able to realize your true potential. So naturally, you might want to extend to trying to break laws. But this is a problem. It's something I advise against because laws work and they're true principles. So if you try to violate a law, you face the consequences of not following that law. So the question here is asking, what if you don't like the laws? Well, the simple answer to that is too bad. If you don't, the laws are the laws. So the way things work is the way things work. If you don't like them, well, fine, but they're still going to act upon you. So we're going to use the gravity example because it's a really cool example, right? So we know that if you jump from the top of a building, you're going to fall down. And if it's high enough, you're probably going to fall down and die, right? So this is a law of gravity. Now, what if you don't like this law? Well, and then you jump, you still fall down. The law works on you. The law of gravity applies to you whether you like it or not. Okay? And, well, there are other laws too, right? There's another law. There's certain poisons. If you take the poison, you die. Okay? This is just a law of how the poison works. What if you don't like this law? You don't think it's cool. You don't think it's fair. that the poison kills you, and you take the poison, you die anyway, right? So when it comes to laws, when it comes to the way things actually work, you really don't have a choice in the matter. The job you have is to learn the laws and work in accordance with them, or at least avoid the consequences of those laws. So, I mean, I'm not going to say you're not allowed to hate the laws or not like the laws. I'm not going to say that. Like them and hate them all you like, but be aware of them and do work with them is what I would say. But again, I'd also recommend that it's just a waste of time to be arguing with the way things are. Rather, it's better to understand and work with the way things are. So you could sit down and, let's say, worry about the rules of money and how the economy works and complain about it. Or you could just understand the laws of money. You could understand how things are and understand the laws of how money works and work with the laws of money. So usually what happens with people is that they get caught in a victim mindset, where instead of learning the laws and working with them, they spend all their time complaining about the laws. I'm not talking about laws of a country, I'm talking about principles of how things work. Okay? So for instance, there's certain laws by which money works, right? So if you don't follow the laws of economics, the laws of money, let's say saving or investing, well, you're not really going to become financially stable, right? Unless maybe you win the lottery, but not for long. So those are laws of how money works. If you don't learn the laws of saving and investment, and you spend all your time bitching and complaining about how it's all unfair, how rich people have all your money, well, fine, it's okay to complain, but it's just not going to help you. So let the rest of the society complain, but not you, because you're a relentless man. A relentless man doesn't whine and complain. A relentless man learns what the laws are and learns to work with them, or at least learns to avoid the consequences of them. All right, we just run out of time, so I gotta move on to the next question. Okay, the next question is, I don't think the laws work for me. So this is not really a question, it's more of a statement. A guy is, okay, so you're agreeing, look, I agree that, okay, the world works by laws and I need to understand these laws and find a way to work with them and I need to break the rules. Okay, I understand that, but I don't think the laws work for me. The laws work for everybody else, but they don't work for me. Like if other people go to the gym and work out, they lose weight, but not me. I'm just different somehow. If other people spend time and apply themselves and think really hard, they're able to solve problems. But me, no, I'm different. The laws don't apply to me. Well, I mean, you can hear how bizarre this is, right? So here's one really beautiful thing about the laws is that the laws of how things work, the laws of nature, the laws of psychology, the laws of society, any sort of law, the laws don't care who you are. The laws don't care about your race, your gender, your age, how much money you have, your history, did your parents love you, did your girlfriend dump you? The laws don't care. If you work in accordance with them, they work for you. So, yeah, there is no reason why the laws are not going to apply to you. In fact, this is something I want you to expel from your head, that, oh yeah, the laws just don't work for you. No. If the laws work for other people, they'll work for you as well. So this is really not an excuse, okay? So if you're struggling with discipline and you want to be disciplined because you know that if you're disciplined, you'll be able to die empty. But you're thinking to yourself, okay, fine, because Christian, I've been talking about the laws of discipline a lot in this podcast episode. We had an episode on discipline, and the episode on code of conduct that came up could be thought of as more talks on discipline, more of the laws of discipline. So you might be saying, okay, fine, those laws work for other people, but not for me. My reply to that is bullshit. Stop whining, stop complaining, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Actually spend time to learn the laws, work with the laws, and your life will actually change. All right, so this is actually short. So this whole business of the laws don't work for me, yeah, I don't buy it. Unless maybe there are certain extreme situations, like if your head got demolished by a truck, then maybe, okay, fine. If you apply the laws of reasoning, maybe you'll not be able to learn how to think. Maybe. I don't know. There could be some exceptions, but for the vast majority of people, in particular, if you're able to understand me, the laws work for you. So I recommend that you learn these laws and work with them. or avoid the consequences of the not working in accordance with the laws. All right, let's move on to the next question. Will knowing the laws help me to deal with manipulative people? Yeah, so maybe you're facing people who are always manipulating you. Maybe you have, let's take an example of a boss, or let's say a coworker that's always screwing you over and always getting you to do like their work for them and they take the credit, that kind of thing. Someone is manipulating you. So will knowing the laws help you deal with such people? Yeah, the answer is yes. So manipulation, if you take away the morality for a second, manipulation is just a skill. What that means is that if it's a skill, it operates by certain laws. So that means that there are laws of manipulation. If you learn the laws of manipulation, well, you become very difficult to manipulate. It's that simple. And if you study the person manipulating you, if you read their books on manipulation, if you study the books on manipulation, a book like the 48 Laws of Power, it talks a lot about manipulation. If you study those laws, well, you become very difficult to manipulate. Yes, the reason you're being manipulated is because you're letting people manipulate you. And this is again another case where you being ignorant of the laws of manipulation is the reason why you're being manipulated. Okay, so yeah, can I think of what particular laws of manipulation there are? Well, yeah, there are a couple, right? So some people pose as frenemies. It's a concept nowadays, a frenemy, someone who you're not sure if he's your friend or your enemy. So that is a person screws you over, but in a passive-aggressive way. And then later on, they treat you nicely, so you think they're your friend. And so you ignore what they did. Let's say someone stole your idea, and then now you're angry at them because you think they're really evil people. But then the same person later on buys you a cake and treats you really nicely. So now you're confused. Do they really like me or are they manipulating me? So you have a problem, right? Because if they just treated you badly all the time, then you'll be able to identify them as an enemy and take precautions to protect yourself against them. But when someone is posing as a friend, an enemy, and you're not sure they are frenemy, you don't know if they like you or not, well, that's a manipulation tactic. Now, if you know that tactic, let's say after listening to this episode, now you know that tactic, it becomes very difficult for someone to use the frenemy law of manipulation against you, okay? And so, again, ignorance is your problem. Learn the laws. Any problem you have, learn the laws. Someone's manipulating you, learn the laws. You can't throw a football, learn the laws. You can't dance, learn the laws. You fail tests, learn the laws of the test. If you learn the laws, they work for you. If you're ignorant of the laws will fuck you up, unfortunately. Okay, I wish they didn't, but they do. So, that's how it is. Alright, let's move on to the next question. It's again under time, dude. 53 seconds. Alright. Proud of myself now. How can laws help me create a code? Alright. So this is in relation to the fact that our last series of episodes have been on the concept of a code of conduct. We defined a code of conduct to be a set of standards that you'll never violate. It's kind of like your belief system that helps you to accomplish your goals and mission in life and help you to move the human race forward. Well, so someone is asking whether will these laws help you to have a good code of conduct? Yeah, that is true, because once you know the laws, right? So you're a highly ambitious person. You want to accomplish big things. Whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, there's a deficit. There are certain skills that you don't know. Okay. What this means is that there are certain laws that you haven't yet mastered. So in order to master these laws, you're going to need to have a certain attitude, a certain belief system. And if you know the laws tell you what the belief system is. Okay, I'm being too abstract, so let me be more specific here. So you want to become a writer. Okay, that's what you want to do. You want to become a writer. Okay, and at the moment, you don't know how to write. All right, so there are certain laws of writing that you need to know. For instance, if you want to be good at writing, well, you have to practice a lot of writing. Maybe you have to write 3 hours every day, write a lot of complex texts, and then get someone to correct them. So that's a law of writing, is to become a good writer, you have to write a lot. That's a law. Well, if you know that this is the law that you need to master, then you need beliefs that will enable you to write every single day, whether you feel like it or not. And these beliefs would be the sorts of things that you put on your code. Maybe the belief is, look, I'm the guy that writes every single day for 3 hours. Okay, this is who you are. You put this on your code, and this is something you never violate. Well, here, knowing the laws that you need to learn in order to realize your goals and die empty enabled you to know what beliefs to put on your code of conduct. So the laws are helping you create your code. And that's really what it is. Dying empty could be thought of as learning the laws, mastering the laws, and therefore realizing your true potential. And in order to do that, well, you need to learn the laws. In order to learn the laws, well, you need a certain attitude and belief system, a way of thinking. And once you identify what that way of thinking is, you put it in your code and you live and embody it. Once you do that, well, you're basically unstoppable. All right. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. How can people who can't change follow the laws? So here you've found yourself in a dilemma. Okay, fine. You realize that you want to accomplish something, you want to die empty, and you know that you need to learn certain laws. Okay. So you want to become a swimmer and you realize, okay, I need to learn how to swim freestyle. So I need to learn the laws of swimming freestyle. But you're saying to yourself, look, I want to learn the laws of freestyle. I know I need to learn the laws of freestyle in order to be a great swimmer, but I do not know, I'm not able to change. I'm the kind of person who really can't change, and I can't learn new things. So I can't learn I know the laws, but I can't change myself in order to start applying and following those laws consistently. Okay, so what do you do in those kinds of situations is what you're asking me. Well, first I want to change something there. You're operating by a rule, and the rule you're operating by is the rule that you can't change. Is that really a law? Is this really how you operate? Is it really true that you can't change, you can't improve? You can't become the sort of person that actually learns new laws and follows them. I want to tell you right now that is not true. This is not who you are. This is a rule. This is something that's been imposed on you by either yourself or your society. First thing you need to do is get that out of your brain. You can change, you can grow. So once you accept that, once you know this to be true, that because that is actually a law of human nature. We are the most adaptable species there is. I don't know if there's any species more adaptable than us, but yes, that is what we do. We grow, we change, we improve. So once you realize that about yourself, then suddenly the answer to this question just becomes clear. Yes, you can change. Yes, you can grow, which means that there is no such thing as, oh yeah, I can't apply the laws because I can't change, because you can change and you can become better. And this points into what is usually called the growth versus fixed mindset, a work by a lady called Carol Dweck, a psychologist, and she talks about it. There are two really types of people. There are people with a growth mindset and people with a fixed mindset. People with a fixed mindset believe that everything about them is fixed and cannot be changed. You're stuck with your intelligence, you're stuck with your strength, you're stuck with your abilities, you're stuck with your skills. People with a growth mindset believe that everything about them is temporary. My intelligence is temporary. I can become smarter. I can become stronger. I can become more adaptable. I can understand things that I couldn't understand yesterday. If someone tells me today that I'm a poor listener, it's not a death sentence. It's not like something written in stone. It's not fixed. Tomorrow I can practice and become better at listening. So for a relentless man, there's actually no debate here. You need to believe. You need to adopt a growth mindset. You need to believe that, and it's actually true. It's not that you need to believe it, but it's actually true. You can grow, you can improve, you can adapt. If someone points out your mistakes, it is not an attack on you as a person. You should actually thank someone, and someone tells you, oh, you're actually a poor listener. This is not a bad thing, because they've just helped you to identify a weakness in yourself. Since you don't have a fixed mindset, since you don't believe you're stuck with being a poor listener, you now take steps, if it's important to you, to listen better. And that's how you improve. Because for someone who can grow, criticism is not negative. Criticism is only data. You're given data, you work with the data, and you improve and you grow. So once you have a growth mindset and you realize that the world runs by laws, that whatever you're trying to achieve is really a question of learning the laws and applying those laws, then it's really limitless for you. All right. Next question. Okay, this is a little long. It says, all that stuff about laws seems too intellectual and abstract. Will it help me succeed at activities that are not brain intensive? So here you're saying, look, okay, yeah, Christian, fine. I understand. You're talking about laws and rules and all this abstract mental stuff. But I mean, I'm not really doing intellectual activities. I'm an athlete, all I do is run with a ball, or I mostly do physical work. I don't really, I lift weights. Why do I need all these abstract ideas about laws and rules? So how do I reply to that? Well, the answer is that this is part of one of the weaknesses people have. Usually people fall in camps. If you are raised in an intellectual family with people who valued thinking, you're more of an intellectual and you abandon the physical. And if you're someone who was born in a physical family where you lifted things, you lifted weights, you're encouraged to fight and play sports, sometimes you find that those people tend not to care about intellectual activities at all. This is actually a weakness. Why? Because you're connected. Your brain and body are connected. You can't divorce them. You can't just be a wholly physical person who doesn't think, or a person who only thinks and doesn't move physically. And this is really the inherent problem here, because a relentless man combines both. A relentless man is in touch with his body and mind, because if your mind is powerful, then your body is also powerful. If your body is powerful, then it also helps the mind. The two work together. So if you're doing a purely physical activity like lifting weights, well, the fact is it's not really a purely physical activity. If you actually spend time to think about, well, what are the laws of lifting? What are the laws of the biology? What are the laws of the muscles? How do I grip this weight that I'm lifting correctly? If you actually spend time to think about and learn these laws, your ability to lift will be much better, right? Because you're combining the physical and the mental. Okay, so in fact, every activity that you think of as physical is not really just physical, it's also mental. You say, okay, I'm just a runner. My job is to run really fast. But I'd like to encourage you to break free of that rule that it's only a physical activity. That's bullshit. It's not just physical, it's also mental. Right? Running operates by certain laws. Right? There are laws of running. There's a way to move your feet. There's a way to handle the air resistance. There's types of shoes you need to wear. There are conditions under which you need to train. If you learn these laws and work in accordance with these laws, it will help you to take maximum advantage of your physical capabilities. So this dichotomy, fancy term for this divide, that artificial divide between the body, physical activities, and the mind, is something you want to abandon completely. Let the rest of the community. For a relentless man, no. A relentless man is complete. He's whole. He combines his body and mind. Whatever activity he does, he learns the laws and engages his brain. And if it's a physical activity, he also engages his body. So yes, this fractured view of reality, I encourage you to break free of it. It's all connected. Your mind is connected, your body is connected to your spirit. If you only develop your body but not your mind, you're deficient. You're not really realizing your true potential, and you're not a relentless man. If you only develop your brain, you're not using your body. So you're also not a relentless man, because you're not realizing your true potential. You develop your body and mind, but you don't develop your spirit. Well, you're also not realizing your true potential. Or you focus on your craft and you forget about learning how to lead people. Well, you're also not realizing your true potential. So you see, it's all connected, and you want to start thinking in 3 dimensions as opposed to 1 dimension. All right, so we've beaten this horse already. Let's move on to the next question. I know the laws, but don't apply them. How can I get better at applying the laws? Yeah, so first I want to question the notion that you know the laws, because applying the laws is also a law. Okay, this sounds very philosophical. So basically, let's make it much more practical. Okay, so your dream is, let's say, right now, realizing your true potential for you means that you need to become, let's say you're trying to become a great chess player, and this is your craft. You need to become really good at this craft in order to realize your true potential. And then you say, look, I know all the laws. I understand what I need to study. I need to study the beginning, let's say the end game of the chess game. I know the phases of chess that I need to study. I understand the books I need to read. I know the laws, but I'm still not able to play chess. I'm still not able to show up and actually apply the laws that I've learned. So I would like to question this perspective, because the ability to show up and practice, the ability to discipline yourself to actually apply the laws is in itself a law. That is, there is a law of discipline. And that's what I've been trying to teach you in the episodes we've been doing so far, the episode on discipline and the episode on code of conduct. There are actually laws of discipline. And why can I say this with so much confidence? The reason I can is because I know it from first experience. For a long time, I struggled with discipline. I struggled with showing up and doing my best. And once I learned the laws of discipline, I wasn't in trouble anymore, because now discipline is not an issue for me. I show up when I need to show up. I do the work. I do the work regardless of how I feel. It's not because I'm a special person. It's because I learned the laws of discipline. So for you, I'd recommend that you listen to the episodes we did on discipline and code of conduct. Because if you internalize those lessons, you'll have also learned the laws of discipline. And then now you'll have all the laws in place in order to start applying the laws of playing chess or whatever it is that you're trying to do. You're trying to play music, you're trying to become a singer. Well, you're interested in singing. In order to apply the laws of singing, you're also going to need a primary law, a law of discipline. You're also going to need a certain mindset in order for you to sing to your fullest potential. And this is what this entire podcast is about, is giving you the laws of thinking that will enable you to apply the other laws of whatever it is that you're trying to do. That is, there are laws of basketball, but you need a certain mindset in order to apply the laws of basketball and become the best basketball player you can be. There are laws of wrestling, but before you can apply the laws of wrestling, you need a certain mindset, a certain way of thinking, certain laws of thinking in order to enable you to apply the laws of wrestling. And this is true of whatever you're trying to do. You're trying to go into business. Well, sure, there are laws of business, but there are laws of thinking first. And this is what this podcast is all about. Giving you the laws that you need to know, the laws of thinking, the right operating system, so that you become very good at figuring out the laws of your discipline, mastering those laws, and really unleashing your potential. Okay, let's move on to the next question. What do I do if I am not smart enough to learn the laws? Not smart enough. Yeah, there are only rare exceptions. There are only rare cases where we have an individual who's really not smart enough. But if you're able to listen to this episode, you're definitely smart enough. The laws are actually never really complicated. Well, I mean, think about, okay, you're making a podcast. You're a podcaster like me. Well, there are certain laws of podcasting. They're not that complicated. Okay, what are some of the laws of podcasting? Well, one is consistency. That is, you need to set a schedule of when you're going to release episodes, and release episodes on every single one of the times you committed to releasing it. In my case, every week I release an episode, minimum. Okay, so that's one of the laws of podcasting. Does that sound complicated to you? Do you need a IQ of 200 to understand those? Well, the answer is no, right? So, and this is true of basically anything you're trying to do, any field you're thinking about. You do not need special intelligence to know the laws and apply them. The laws are usually simple. That's the defining kind of quality of laws. The laws are simple. So, you want to be a great football player. Well, what are the laws that will enable you to be a great football player? Simple laws. One, you need to show up to every practice session. Okay? Next thing is you need to listen to your coach. How complicated is that? Okay. Next thing is you need to take feedback and improve. Okay. That is not complicated. That is something that anybody can do. So really saying that you're not smart enough is not an excuse. The laws are simple. In particular, the laws that will, and in fact, even this whole idea, there's an assumption here that we need to overcome. The belief that you're not smart. That is a rule. It's not a principle. There is no law of nature that says you're stupid. No. Your intelligence is not fixed. You can grow, you can improve it. So if you don't feel like you're smart enough, well, you're not stuck being dumb. You can become smarter. You can read more books. You could listen to podcasts like this. You could listen to podcasts of really smart people. You could uh, you could meet really smart people in your community and talk to them. You could change your environment. Your intelligence is not fixed. How your capacity to think is not fixed. How smart you are is you're not stuck with it till death. That is something you can adjust. And so this whole idea of I'm not smart enough to follow the laws is just it's just garbage. Honestly speaking, it's just garbage. Okay, the laws are simple. You can learn them, and being smart. If you want to be smarter, you can become smarter. Okay, and so what I'd really encourage you to do is to get rid of this rule, this limitation in your brain that you're not smart enough, because that is actually holding you back. Once you realize you can get smarter, once you realize that you can learn the laws and you can implement the laws, and if you implement the laws, you'll get the consequence of the laws. Once you realize that, then you really become unstoppable, and you're definitely on track towards realizing your true potential. And this is really what this episode is about, really. It's about, well, you realizing your true potential. Of course, it's also about undoing all the rules and limitations that you place on yourself and that your society has placed on you. It doesn't matter how many people told you were stupid and not smart. Those people are telling you a rule. They are conditioning you to believe something that's not true. I'm not saying you're smart now. I'm not going to say that's wishful thinking. But what I can say is this: you can become smarter. You can become smarter. You can learn the laws and you can improve. All right. So, all right, let's do one more question here. How about that? Okay. So, are all rules meant to be broken? Interesting. Yeah, so we said that the difference between a law and a rule is that, well, a law is a true principle, a rule is a fake principle. And we mentioned before that, well, a relentless man is someone who's realizing his potential, someone who's dying empty. To realize your potential, you have to overcome limitations, okay? So, for instance, if you're trying to become, let's say, an Olympic runner, well, at the beginning, maybe you run at a certain speed, and then you think that's the fastest you can possibly run. Well, part of becoming an elite runner is realizing that that is a rule. That's a fake limit. It's a fake principle. You can actually run faster. So you break past that. You break that rule of, okay, I can only run in 5 minutes. Suddenly you break it and you can run in 4. And you can break that you realize 4 minutes is also a rule. It's not a law. You break that and you can run in less than 4 minutes, etc. So, and this not, of course, is not just restricted to running. It's almost anything you can do. Is realizing your potential, growing, and doing things you're not able to do involves breaking rules, limitations imposed on yourself, either by yourself or by the community. So the natural question here we're asking is, are all rules meant to be broken? So it all depends. There's no like cookie cutter answer here. It all depends on what your objective is in life and what your mission is. If let's say you're trying to run a business, okay, and there's this rule that's holding you back, but you really need to break this rule in order to make your business work, then I'd say, okay, sure, right? Of course, you want to be careful, but it might be a good idea to break the rule then. But sometimes certain rules, there's no need to even engage with them because you can accomplish your mission. You can die empty you don't need to break every rule. There may be rules in your country, in your constitution, that you don't agree with, that you maybe think are immoral, that you'd really like to break, but you don't really need to break because they don't directly relate to you accomplishing your mission. In which case, I'd say pick your battles. You don't want to just fight for the sake of fighting, okay? Maybe you don't agree with, I don't know, some law. There are many, it's not really a law. Let me call it a rule in the Constitution. There are many rules you probably don't agree with. Doesn't mean you need to fight with every single one of them. Maybe you don't like the immigration policies. Okay, sure. But you're trying to be like, I don't know, an Olympic swimmer. Is it worth your effort to try and change the immigration laws? Maybe it is, but perhaps it's not because it's not directly related to your mission in life. The world is filled with injustices. You can't solve all of them. The world is filled with rules and limitations. Tons of them. You can't break all of them. What you want to do instead is figure out which rules matter, which rules you want to break. So it's a decision. It's one of those decisions that I cannot make for you. You want to decide what rules you want to break and what rules you want to keep. But in order to realize your true potential, in order to die empty, what I can guarantee is that you're gonna need to be a rule breaker, but a law follower, right? So don't work against the laws, okay? Don't try and ignore how things work, ignore reality. Okay, ignore the laws of human nature, ignore the laws of society, ignore the laws of economics. No, that would just fuck you over. However, rules on the other hand are usually just imposed. They're not real. They're fake. They are the matrix. If you want to use that metaphor, it's a matrix. There are rules. People tell you, oh, this is how things work, but it's not really how things work. In order to realize your potential, actually, remember I said that a relentless man is a leader? Well, that's in particular what that means is that a leader usually is a rule breaker, and you're going to need to become that. If you don't break any rules, if you're willing to just maintain everything as it is, please everybody, well, you're not really going to realize your true potential, and by definition, you're not going to be a relentless man. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. I hope it was of value to you. This is really your podcast. Always remember that. My goal is to serve you. I am your servant. And my mission in life is to help men die empty, to make sure that all that potential that you have, and you have a lot of it, by the way, you're capable of so much more than you think you are. And part of what's holding you back is all these rules in your mind, rules that you tell yourself, oh, I just can't think, oh, I can't do this, oh, I can't sing, oh, nobody has ever been able to do that. All these rules are holding you back. And if you can break free of these rules, you can go very far. And this is part of what this podcast is about, is helping you to unlearn and to look at the world in a different way, to look at the world only in terms of laws and leave all the bullshit principles and rules behind. And this is what I'm really all about. This is what I try to do every single day, is to learn as much as I possibly can, to think as much as I possibly can, so that I can give you the mindset you need, help you to abandon the rules and learn the laws, so that you could unleash the potential that you have trapped within you. Because then you could not only improve yourself, but take the human race to a place it's never been before. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you have any suggestions, please email me. My email is in the episode description. Otherwise, thank you very much once again for listening, and have a relentless week. Bye.